So before we get started on rust repairs, and boys, there a lot of it, I just thought I'd start up the car again, just to make sure that it's still going to be turning over, it's still healthy, nothing's happened since sitting for a few months. The last time we started this car was a few months ago, and I think that was back in episode 5 or something like that, so about 2 months ago we started this car, and it started really beautifully back then, and as you can see, it's starting really, really nicely now, and this is just to give it a turnover, give it a little bit of an exercise, but after this we get straight back into rust repairs, and yeah, we got a large surface area to get through, and we have a lot more compound sheets to weld in. So we started up, have a little bit of fun, and then get straight back into that. So getting back to rust repairs, you can see that we have a large triangular section to repair. So as usual, we get the masking tape out, and we just go along the perimeter of the shape, and we trace the shape onto the masking tape to then apply to some sheet metal to start cutting out. It's a fairly large area, but it's fairly flat too, so it's nothing incredibly crazy, so it's very, very manageable. So as you can see, we've now taken the masking tape and we've applied it to the flat sheet metal that we'll be cutting out from. So it's just flat. I think 1.6, 1.8, 1.4, 1 point something. It's 1 point something metal steel. Millimeter steel. I bought it ages ago, and it's been sat out in the rain ever since. I used it for a few projects, put it out, and now I've got this project. Now I've cracked it back out again. It doesn't really matter too much. The browning that you see isn't really flaking rust or terrible rust, so I'm not too concerned about that. It can go back in the car, no drama. So what I did was I took the masking tape, I put it onto the template, I cut it out. I cut out the template based on the masking tape, the masking on that. Now I'm just deburring the metal so it fits back into the car nice and flush. It's not going to catch on any burring. It also makes it just nicer to handle, and it's just better. So I'm going around the edges now. The edges need to be nice and clean for the welder, so when we weld it back in, it's going to have a nice contact patch to melt into. Here I've got a sanding disc happening. The sanding disc is just taking back the rest of the browning on it, because that is rust, but we're taking it back to just metal now. Any black oxidation that you see on the sheet metal won't really hurt it at all. That black oxidation actually does help protect the metal somewhat. So the fact that there's black splots all across the bare metal is no big concern. So here we are with the finished piece. It's got the edges aren't too flat, so I'm gonna have to go through and hit that flat and straight. So now that I've actually got the metal cut out and ready to weld into the car, I've somehow deformed it while handling the metal. I'm not actually sure how I managed to do this. So what I did, or maybe it was a few days later, I actually started shaping the metal, but it was not flat, and so I just went around it with a ball peen hammer against a brass block on this table here, and I just hammered it, the edges, nice and flat again. Again, it's just so that we can reset it, make sure it's all nice and flat, so we know exactly what we need to do to the metal once it goes into the car and we're shaping it for the floor. So right about here, I've got the part cut out, and then I've flattened out the edges. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing fitment now. So everything is nice and flat. I can fit it into the car. I'm just seeing how it's going to go in and how I'm going to start approaching this. So here it still needs a few edges cut. So we're still trimming the part. You know, we're still grinding off the edges. We're still just massaging the edges back down so that it matches perfectly with the whole width car. We don't want to take more material out of the car itself. We only want to take material out of the metal going into it, because that's, you know, a car's bigger than the material that we'd be putting in. The material we're putting in is fairly small compared to 1900 kilos. So we're just going to go from that. So from here, I see that it's, you know, it's gonna fit, but it still needs some finessing. So what I do in a second is I run the angle grinder along the two edges, so between the body and the car. So to do that, I tack it in place just so that's just going to stay where it is, and I just cut between the car and the panel itself. I know it's going to fit, and I'm just running an angle grinder between the two edges so that they're cut perfectly to each other. It's like folding a piece of paper onto itself and cutting. Once I have that sorted, everything's looking alright. I'm using a screwdriver just to poke down the edges that it might be poking up a little bit. So I use a screwdriver just to poke that back down and give it a tack, give it a button weld, and I just go through and I stitch weld it. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's all it is. So I continue doing this, yeah, just stitch welding, and that's it. I mean, the panel has been shaped. It's all good after all that trimming and massaging and exercising. We put it in, we're welding it now, and yeah, it's going to come out as a new floor patch. So that's going to be welded along that long side that I'm working on now. It's also going to be welded towards the back of it. That's towards the bracing section underneath the seat. And you can see I've jumped from one side to the other. And in doing that, I'm just distributing the heat just so it doesn't distort too much. You know, because the way it is now, it'll fit. But if I distort it too much, it might kink it out of shape. So we're trying not to do that. So that's all there is left to it. Just weld it in. So I'm working on the long edge at the moment. On the back edge, I'll start welding that up shortly. And then towards the sill end, I'm going to have to repair the sill along that edge to actually fully weld this in, because at this current stage the metal's too rusty on the edge closest to me, so on the sill end. Towards the transmission tunnel end, the floor's still good to weld to, but towards the sill end, yeah, it's still a bit of a mess. So that's it. We're just going to keep welding, and that's this whole car. That's the whole process of welding up a car like this. You know, that's what a project looks like. So this will continue on, but for now I think we'll try something a little different. So about now I'm going to go back to talking directly into the camera. This trend won't continue on. I'm revising my format, so we're going to go back to the old format for a sec, and from each episode hereafter it will all be voiced over instead. So enjoy this section, me talking into the camera, talking haphazardly, half-assedly, explaining to you how I made these switches. So today I wanted to do something a little different for the car. I wanted to recreate, so I'm still fixing the floor, so don't worry, that's still filling in welds for that. But for now, I wanted to see what I can do about these knobs here. I'm missing two, but I've got two. So I want to try something a little different today, and I wanted to take one of these knobs off, take a knob off, and see if I can recreate it as a CAD file, and just see if I could, you know, recreate one of these knobs and fill in the two that I'm missing. So take them off, use some jeweler screws, go underneath the knob like that, unscrew it, take it off, and we'll go through a 3D printing process. And with that knob off, we just took out that screw there. I just took it straight out of the dashboard, and this is the temp dial as it is, and that will be my sample piece for recreating in CAD. Now I've got all the dimensions from this part here, trying to backlight it so you can see the general shape, and that's sort of the general shape that I put in. It's probably not perfect. I'm still gonna have to chamfer the edges, however you can see that the general shape is there with the lock and where the screw hole goes in. So I'm going to chamfer these edges and call it done. And I'm about to convert the STL file into something that the printer can read, which is done by Ultimate Kira, which will be put onto my cheap 3D printer, which is a Sovo SV01. And I'm going to slice this file and put it over to the printer and see how it comes out. So it may be a bit hard to see since this printer's in the corner of my room, but this is the first attempt at printing. I'll let you guys know how it happens, how it goes. Yeah, the beads are actually sticking down, that's nice. Anyway, I'll let you know. Just got a brighter camera with me and just watching how it goes now. Seems to be doing the thing. So again, I'll get back to you guys with how it goes, but as you can see, it is actually doing something very nice. So here are the finished products. So here's the original switch in its glory. and here are the two reproduction switches, which I think it came out pretty well. The profile on the top isn't exactly right, but I think the rest of it is really good enough. I think especially for, because I was considering just electrical taping the heater knob ends before doing this, but you know, it's got the slots cut out on the back, and it's got the screw hole in the bottom, and it's generally the right shape, and the scale is good. That's what's important, that the scale is good. We had one shit attempt at it where it made the base plate with the hole, but then it stopped printing midway through, and that was because I was dealing with jamming issues. I think it took me about a good 2 hours to sort through taking the tip off and melting the plastic out, and then going through the machine. It turned out there was a big lump of plastic just snapped off in the extruder, which I could have fixed if I knew. I could have fixed the thing faster had I known that, but I didn't, because I'm very new to 3D printing. But yeah, so we got two switches, and I got the software from my university. They allow students to use it, and I borrowed it from the engineering department, and yeah, it came in handy. So looks like I have to design more CAD stuff. Very cool. I'll install these back in the car and see how it goes. So coming back to the car now, we can test out this new equipment we've got. So push that up, out of the way. There we go. So bear with me here. Trying a DSLR approach here, so we'll see how that goes. So okay, so that's the original switch, which would go right there. Very cool. And here's one of my reproductions, which will go right here. Oh, it's gonna fit. I think we're gonna file that back. I think maybe the slot's a bit. There you go. Oh wait, no, look! It fits flush with the other one. Look at that. There we go. And then try the next one. Let's see here. So we've got a lot of slag in the back of these. Then there we go. There we have it. Nice little switches. All fits together with the original stock. So I had two, missing two. So I had 4 switches. Had 2, missing 2, made 2. Now all 4 are fitted. So I'll need to take these off the car and paint them up. But for now, hey, not too shabby. Love it. Okay, so there's the old floor. It's shit. It's horrible. It looks like anus. See that? Shit, right? And that the point is, you weld it. When you weld it, it's like all happy. And the point is, you weld it so it's like you can jack it up. It's cool. And it's cool, and the welder and groovy. You got that.